Welcome back again to another reading in the Urantia book. We're going to pick up with paper 176, section 3, verse point 5.
To everyone who has, more shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from him who has not, even that which he has shall be taken away. You cannot stand still in the affairs of the eternal kingdom. My Father requires all his children to grow in grace and in a knowledge of the truth. You who know these truths must yield the increase of the fruits of the Spirit and manifest a growing devotion to the unselfish service of your fellow servants. And remember that, inasmuch as you minister to one of the least of my brethren, you have done this service to me. And so should you go about the work of the Father's business, now and henceforth, even forevermore. Carry on until I come. In faithfulness do that which is entrusted to you, and thereby shall you be ready for the reckoning call of death. And having thus lived for the glory of the Father and the satisfaction of the Son, you shall enter with joy and exceedingly great pleasure into the eternal service of the everlasting kingdom.
So the Lord says that we are required as stewards to improve on the truth that we have. The talents that we have, the innate talents that we have, is directly related to how much spiritual attunement we have towards the things of the Spirit. Now, there may be some who perceive of spiritual things more than others, and that's okay. It doesn't matter how much. It really doesn't. The question is are we improving? Are we manifesting a growing devotion to the unselfish service of our fellow servants? That's the metric. That's the increase. They increased in their talents, in their innate spiritual ability by exercising that growing devotion of unselfish service to their fellow men and women. That's what it's about. It's about expressing selfless service. How much more selfless can you become? That's what the talent is. So the man who took it and buried his talent in the dirt, he didn't even give his talents to those who would have directed him to increase. Meaning saying like you go to church, you receive a calling. Yeah, that's the minimum. I mean, you're, oh yeah, I did what I was supposed to do in my calling. Didn't do any more than I have to. At least that's an increase. You gave it to the money changers. But if you bury it in the sand, you give nothing to anyone. There's no benefit to anyone, is the point. If you have a great deal of talent, or any talent, you should be giving it to others freely in selfless service. Let's continue on.
Truth is living. The Spirit of truth is ever leading the children of light into new realms of spiritual reality and divine service. You are not given truth to crystallize into settled, safe, and honored forms. Your revelation of truth must be so enhanced by passing through your personal experience that new beauty and actual spiritual gains will be disclosed to all who behold your spiritual fruits, and in consequence thereof are led to glorify the Father who is in heaven. Only those faithful servants who thus grow in the knowledge of the truth, and who thereby develop the capacity for divine appreciation of spiritual realities, can ever hope to enter fully into the joy of their Lord.
That's a remarkable statement right there. Truth is living. It lives. It needs to live inside you because it cannot be expressed in words or in it can be expressed somewhat in deeds because you can see the fruit of it. But it is still nonetheless living, and it must live inside individuals. It cannot live on this planet except inside you. So how else are good people going to see the fruits of the Spirit except through us, through each and every one of us? And I would go so far as to say that these spiritual gains that we have are they're personal, they're experiential, meaning we've experience Him through our personal experience, and a new beauty is gained because people see that fruit. And we can't hope to enter into the joy of our Lord unless we become more selfless, more serving of others. Let's continue on.
What a sorry sight for successive generations of the professed followers of Jesus to say, regarding their stewardship of divine truth, "Here, Master, is the truth you committed to us 100 or 1,000 years ago. We have lost nothing. We have faithfully preserved all you gave us. We have allowed no changes to be made in that which you taught us. Here is the truth you gave us." But such a plea concerning spiritual indolence will not justify the barren steward of truth in the presence of the Master. In accordance with the truth committed to your hands will the Master of truth require a reckoning.
Wow. Again, the Lord will require a reckoning at our hands on what we have done with the truth that He's given us. You know, these truths that we see contained inside a faith experience or a church so often do not change. They do not get more depth. Sometimes they do a little bit, or maybe there's a little bit of growth around the edges, but so often faith experiences compartmentalize and consolidate the truth that's understood as something that's wrote and writ and set in stone, and rarely does it really change much. That's always in danger about churches. That's why Christ never really established a church, is because he understood that whatever was given would probably become static in that faith experience. So, truth can only grow through personal experience. Sometimes it can make its way into a church's belief system, but it must do it through the growth of an individual who then finds himself in a position to express that to others. In the LDS faith, we call it the prophet. But unfortunately, if it's only coming into the church through one person, an older person with a lot of experience, but nonetheless pretty set in their ways, um, we may not be getting a whole lot of truth injected that the Lord would have us have. After all, so often churches become very calcified over time.
In the next world you will be asked to give an account of the endowments and stewardships of this world. Whether inherent talents are few or many, a just and merciful reckoning must be faced. If endowments are used only in selfish pursuits and no thought is bestowed upon the higher duty of obtaining increased yield of the fruits of the Spirit, as they are manifested in the ever-expanding service of men and the worship of God, such selfish stewards must accept the consequences of their deliberate choosing. And how much like all selfish mortals was this unfaithful servant with the one talent, in that he blamed his slothfulness directly upon his Lord? How prone is man, when he is confronted with the failures of his own making, to put the blame upon others, oftentimes upon those who least deserve it. Said Jesus that night as they went to their rest, "Freely have you received, therefore freely should you give of the truth of heaven, and in the giving will this truth multiply and show forth the increasing light of saving grace, even as you minister it."
Well, that once again, this particular paper 3, 176, is so powerful. We will have to give an account of what we've been given before this life, what is our innate talents, and what we have done with them. Whether we have done them for selfish pursuits or we have taken our innate talents, our spiritual endowments, and we have increased them through selfless service and yielding fruits of the Spirit, which benefit and bless so many people around us. That's what it's about. You know, if you feel tired in your life, this is a piece of advice I would give. If you feel fatigued in your life by doing good to others, it's because our hearts are not changed sufficiently yet. It's not a bad thing, but don't give up on being selfless. Try not to say, well, because it's so fatiguing for me, I don't wish to be selfless or try to give. Because someone took advantage, I don't want to give anymore. No, no, no. Let us not be jaded to the point that we do nothing, that we hide our talents because we're afraid to even give it to the money changers or to those that would be around us that might actually utilize our talents, our spiritual abilities. Let us always be out there willing to give. Maybe not as freely because we've been hurt, but at the same time recognizing that we want to give selflessly, looking for opportunities to give selflessly to those who would appreciate it. That's my advice, is like never get to the point that you become so jaded that you would reject the spiritual gifts you have or hide them in the dirt so that you won't give them to others or you won't share them freely. It is selflessness that you find a new life. You find a new self in. You become greater, closer to your Father in heaven and His purposes when you give selflessly to others. Let's continue on.
4. The Return of Michael. Of all the Master's teachings, no one phase has been so misunderstood as his promise sometime to come back in person to this world. It is not strange that Michael should be interested in sometime returning to the planet whereon he experienced his seventh and last bestowal as a mortal of the realm. It is only natural to believe that Jesus of Nazareth, now sovereign ruler of a vast universe, would be interested in coming back, not only once but even many times, to the world whereon he lived such a unique life, and finally won for himself the Father's unlimited bestowal of universe power and authority. Urantia will eternally be one of the 7 nativity spheres of Michael in the winning of universe sovereignty. Jesus did, on numerous occasions and to many individuals, declare his intention of returning to this world. As his followers awakened to the fact that their master was not going to function as a temporal deliverer, and as they listened to his predictions of the overthrow of Jerusalem and the downfall of the Jewish nation, they most naturally began to associate his promised return with these catastrophic events. But when the Roman armies leveled the walls of Jerusalem, destroyed the temple, and dispersed the Judean Jews, and still the Master did not reveal himself in power and glory, his followers began the formulation of that belief which eventually associated the second coming of Christ with the end of the age, even with the end of the world.
Well, as you can see, Christ, He is the planetary prince, therefore He can return at any time to anyone to accomplish anything that needs to be done. He has returned in a variety of ways already. So, I mean, in the LDS faith, there's a belief that he appeared to Joseph Smith. So, his second coming, I mean, he's never left. I would propose that Christ has never left. Yes, he's busy in the universe, but he can't. It's not like he can't be in as many places as he wants at once. He can. With his ability as to be as God, he can be in every place in the universe that he wants to be, including on this earth, revealing himself at some point for something, for some purpose, whether it be small or great. So Christ is not restricted to one place. So let us never think that he's not here with us. He is here with us. He is intimately aware and always guiding and directing the people to greater truth, to help them see greater understandings. Hence the Urantia book. I mean, who do you think authorized this book to come into being? Obviously, there was something missing from all the other instantiations of religion, faith, books, and truth. There was still something more missing that needed to be revealed, and thus, I'm sure he authorized the Urantia book. And it is a remarkable book. There is just nothing like it. And yeah, it's just so remarkable. We'll end here, but thank you for listening, and we'll continue on next time.